Chapter 10, The Same Hallway. The morning at the hospital was much like any other. A cold white light reflected off the polished floor. The clattering sound of metal carts echoing down the long hallways, and that inescapable, ever-present scent of antiseptic. But for Layan, this place held something new. She was walking between Nora and Adam. Her small hand occasionally gripped the edge of Nora's coat, then she would let go, take a couple of steps forward, and quickly return. But her eyes were not looking at the path ahead. Instead, they were searching. Right, left, ahead, as if she were waiting for someone. Adam was the first to notice. He looked at her for a moment, then asked, "What are you doing?" Layan did not answer. She simply tilted her head up toward the long corridor. Waiting, they reached the third floor. The children's wing. Nora sat on the metal bench near the window. Adam sat beside her. But Layan, she didn't sit. She stood. Then she took small steps toward the end of the hallway. She stared at the service door where the delivery carts came through. She waited. 2 seconds. 3, and then he appeared. A metal cart rolled out slowly. Beside it, a tall young man pushed it calmly. Han-Jiho. The moment Layan saw him, her eyes widened. A massive smile spread across her face. Then she called out, "Jiho!" Before Nora could even move, Layan was already running. Her little footsteps pattered rapidly against the floor. Jiho stopped in his tracks when he heard the voice. He looked up, and in the next second Layan stopped right in front of him. She looked up at him with a beaming smile. He said quietly, "You." She nodded enthusiastically. Then she grabbed the hem of his jacket. In the background, Nora was watching. Her eyes moved rapidly, evaluating the situation. The distance, the man, Layan's movements, but after a moment her body relaxed slightly. No danger. Layan suddenly pointed behind him and said, "Button." Jiho looked. The elevator, the button was too high for her. He understood immediately. He let out a soft sigh. Then he leaned down slightly and picked her up. Layan laughed instantly. She reached out her hand and pressed the button. Ding! But she wasn't looking at the elevator. She was looking at him and laughing, as if the whole thing were a game. In the back, Adam said in a low voice, "She doesn't do this with people." Nora didn't answer, but she was observing Jiho. One thing about him was clear. He was reserved, extremely quiet. The elevator opened. Jiho set Layan down. She immediately ran back toward Nora and Adam. Then she turned around and waved her hand. "Bye, Jiho." He lifted his hand slightly, waved calmly. But before he could walk away, a small voice spoke up. "Jiho." He looked. Adam was standing there quietly. Their eyes met for a moment. Jiho nodded slightly. Then he pushed the cart and disappeared down the end of the hallway. But their day at the hospital was not over yet. An hour later, Adam was sitting in a small room with walls painted in a calming color. The psychotherapy room. He sat opposite the doctor. Her name was Dr. Kang Myon, a woman in her 40s with a gentle voice. She asked kindly, "How was your week?" Adam thought for a moment. Then he said, "Quiet." The session was short, but Nora knew that these sessions were important, even if Adam spoke very little. After the appointment ended, they left the hospital. The cold air outside was refreshing. Layan was walking between them. Then she suddenly stopped in front of a small shoe store. She stared through the glass display. There was a pair of tiny shoes. They were pink, and they had little butterflies on them. She didn't say anything, she just looked. Nora noticed this. She stood still for a moment, then she walked into the store. Minutes later, Layan walked out wearing the new shoes. She took small steps, constantly looking down at her feet. Then she said happily, "Pink." Adam smiled a little. Even Nora had a faint smile appear on her face. Night. After Adam and Layan fell asleep, Nora quietly stepped out of the house. The street was quiet. The yellow streetlights reflected off the asphalt. She reached the small cafe where she worked at night. The quiet corner cafe. It wasn't crowded. Only one customer was sitting by the window, a man in his mid-30s. He was looking at the menu. Nora approached calmly. She placed a glass of water on the table and said, "Good evening." The man looked up at her. "I want coffee, but I don't know what kind." Nora didn't smile, but her voice was calm. "If you don't like bitter coffee, try the latte." The man thought for a moment. "All right." Minutes later, she placed the cup in front of him. Then she returned to work, without extra words, without excessive pleasantries, but the service was precise. Fast. Quiet. When he paid the bill, he said, "The coffee was good." Nora simply nodded. "Thank you." She wasn't a social person, but she was professional. The next morning, Nora woke up before sunrise. As usual, she put on her coat and went out to the bakery where she worked in the morning. The name of the bakery was Harem Bakery. The smell of fresh bread filled the place. She worked for several hours. Then she returned home. In the kitchen, she began preparing breakfast: hot white rice, a simple egg omelet, and orange juice. Adam woke up first. He sat at the table. Then came Layan, walking in her new pink shoes, showing them off. Adam said, "You're going to get them dirty." Layan replied, "No." After breakfast, Nora prepared their bags, Adam's for school, Layan's for daycare. They left the house. They stopped in front of the neighbor's house. Nora knocked on the door. A kind woman in her mid-30s opened the door. Her name was Park Soyeon. She said with a smile, "Good morning, Nora." Behind her stood a little girl. Her name was Hana. She was about the same age as Layan. Layan immediately grabbed her hand. "Hana!" The two girls laughed. Nora walked with the three children. She dropped Adam off at school first. Then she went with Layan and Hana to the daycare. After saying goodbye to them, she returned home. She spent the rest of the morning doing routine chores: cleaning, washing clothes, tidying up the house. But after that, she sat at the table. She opened a notebook. She began to study. She was studying national law, the Korean language, international law, and refugee protection. She knew one thing for certain: if she didn't understand the laws, people could easily deceive her. She didn't eat lunch. This was a habit of hers. She ignored food until the evening. In the afternoon, she went out again. She picked up Adam from school, then Layan and Hana from daycare. She dropped Hana off at her house. The neighbor thanked her. Then Nora returned home with the two children. In the evening, she prepared dinner: fried chicken with a mild, non-spicy sauce. It is said that chicken is the food of the poor, but for them it was a luxury meal. Layan laughed. Adam ate in silence. As for Nora, she watched them. After they fell asleep, she put on her coat again. She went to the cafe. She worked for only 1 hour. Then she returned home. The city was quiet. The street was almost empty. When she entered the house, she looked at the two sleeping children. She turned off the light. She sat near the window. Their day had been simple, but for them it was a quiet day, and that was enough.